The Pistons have quietly won 9 of their last 11 games, pushing their record above DR 500 for the season. Leading the charge has been Cade Cunningham, who recently delivered a standout performance against the Raptors with 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 17 assists. Over his last 5 games, Cunningham has scored 30 or more points in 3 of them, averaging approximately 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 10 assists on an impressive 62% true shooting. His stellar play has people buzzing, as it seems the former #1 pick is making the long-anticipated superstar leap. So what exactly has made him so effective this season, and where can he go from here? Cade Cunningham has continued to take significant strides in his development. One of his perceived weaknesses entering the NBA was a lack of explosiveness, whether in terms of a quick first step or vertical burst. This limitation led many to believe Cade was better suited for a complementary role rather than being a primary offensive option. However, what we're seeing now is that, with the right combination of timing and craftiness, Cade has transformed himself into an impressive driver. While he may still lack elite explosiveness, he compensates with a strong change of pace, frequently using subtle hesitations and crossovers to freeze defenders before making his move down the lane. Cade may lack acceleration, but he more than makes up for it with his exceptional deceleration. His unique ability to slam on the brakes at any moment often throws defenders off balance. Additionally, his size gives him an edge when it comes to creating and exploiting opportunities. Officially listed by the NBA at 6'6" with an impressive 7-foot wingspan, Cade doesn't need much separation to get past his man. His length allows him to finish over or around defenders, so all he requires to get downhill is a slight advantage. His go-to move for creating that advantage is a smooth transition from a between-the-legs dribble to a left-handed crossover, which typically opens up space for him to attack. That said, his lack of explosiveness can occasionally be an issue if a defender anticipates his move. When defenders anticipate Cade's go-to move and slide in front of it, that's when his craftiness as a scorer truly shines. Cade has an almost endless array of counters for situations where his drives are cut off. One of his primary tools is his strength, which allows him to bump defenders off their spots and create space. Additionally, his exceptional footwork plays a key role. If his lane is taken away further out, he often spins back to his strong hand, creating new angles with sharp, controlled spin moves. Beyond that, he's also a constant threat to step into shots at any moment, keeping defenders on their toes. At the rim, Cade is a threat, but he's equally dangerous when it comes to turning drives into mid-range jumpers. Now feels like the perfect time to highlight that Cade is among the league's best mid-range scorers. This season, he's attempting roughly 9 mid-range shots per 75 possessions, ranking 12th in the NBA. And he's converting an impressive 48% of those attempts. Returning to his counters for when his drives are cut off, Cade often looks to create short jumpers. His strength allows him to bump defenders off their spots, which is his go-to method for creating separation in these situations. Additionally, his ability to stop on a dime, combined with his size and length, lets him shoot comfortably over defenders, giving him virtually unlimited access to these mid-range opportunities. Cade pairs his ability to rise up over defenders with beautifully timed pump fakes, using his length and footwork to create high-quality looks from the pivot. However, with all of that said, I want to take a moment to focus on his rim finishing, as I believe it's the most significant swing skill for Cade. By this I mean that, while it's arguably his weakest attribute as an offensive player right now, the level he can improve in this area might ultimately determine his peak as a player. To say the numbers are underwhelming would be an understatement. Cade is currently shooting just 53% at the rim, which places him in the 8th percentile among all players, and even below some notoriously poor interior finishers. Typically, when a player struggles this much in close, it's a touch issue. But I actually think Cade has pretty great touch. In my opinion, his limitations as a finisher stem more from his driving style than his skill. Take this play for example. As he turns the corner, McDaniels easily cuts him off. Cade then drops his shoulder to create space and bumps his way closer to the rim, eventually scoring over the top of him. Now compare that to this play. Once again, his drive is cut off and he uses his shoulder to create separation. However, this time a rim protector is in position, forcing him to score over 2 defenders instead of 1. This is the core issue. Cade isn't the type of player who consistently gets all the way around his defender. As a result, when opposing teams bring help, He's often left trying to finish over two defenders, which significantly complicates his ability to convert these opportunities. Cade's lack of explosive verticality arguably gives him the worst shot quality at the rim of any player in the NBA. When teams don't bring help and he only has one defender to beat, his combination of strength and touch makes him a solid finisher. However, due to his athletic limitations, there are three key areas where he could improve to boost his rim finishing to 60% or even 65%. First is shot selection. Knowing that he struggles to finish over rim protectors consistently, Cade could benefit from being more selective about his attempts and picking his spots more wisely. Second is timing. The best way to disrupt rim protectors is to throw off their timing. Cade already has elite length and deceleration, so incorporating advanced footwork and hesitation moves, similar to Luka Doncic's approach, could significantly improve his finishing ability around the basket. Third, I'd like to see him play off 2 feet more often. Using two-footed takeoffs would provide greater balance, power, and control when finishing in traffic. I'm already a fan of the potential he's shown in this area, and further developing it could make him a more effective scorer at the rim. The way Cade utilizes up fakes and pivots is already impressive, and incorporating more of that around the rim could lead to easier shots. While I don't expect him to become a world-class interior scorer, the difference between being a solid finisher and an outright poor one is one of the most critical leaps an offensive player can make. It reminds me a lot of Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell entered the league as a great slasher, but his actual finishing at the rim initially lagged behind. As a rookie, he shot 62% at the rim and hovered in the high 50s to low 60s range over his first 4 seasons while developing into an all-star. Then, in 2022, he made a serious leap to an all-NBA caliber player, which was largely fueled by a significant improvement at the rim, eventually reaching the high 60s. Cade, by comparison, is currently shooting Cade is currently shooting nearly the same percentage on shots at the rim as he does from mid-range, and that's a problem because it significantly limits his potential as a two-point scorer. The league average two-point percentage is 54.1%, but Cade's sits nearly 5% below that at 49.6%. If instead of a leap like Donovan Mitchell's improvement from 60% to 67% at the rim, Cade improves from 53% to 60%, it would place him in an entirely different class of player. That said, it's important to note that Cade still applies consistent pressure on the rim when driving. As I mentioned earlier, defenses often bring help to the paint, and more often than not, Cade uses those situations to find the open man. He's already an incredibly advanced passer who can make virtually any read. For example, when attacking downhill and help comes from the dunker spot, Cade excels at leaving his feet to force defenders to commit before finding the right angle to dish it to the big man for an easy finish. Cade also has incredible anticipation for when and where openings will appear. Take this play, for example. The Jazz form a wall, and at this exact moment, Cade realizes that Jalen Duren is about to free up on a cut. He proactively throws a perfect lob pass to set him up. If help arrives early from the nail, Cade is capable of threading the ball through the gaps to an open shooter on the wing. Along with his anticipation, Cade is also extremely patient. On a play like this where he draws help from the nail, he can hesitate, take an extra dribble, and then make the kick-out pass to create an even bigger opening. When everything I've mentioned, his size, use of pace, mid-range scoring, live dribble, and passing, comes together, it culminates in the pick and roll, where he's already one of the best and most surgical ball handlers in the game. It all starts with how he manipulates screens, using subtle hesitations and crossovers to keep defenders guessing and create the perfect opportunity for himself or his teammates. The moves Cade uses to initiate his drives, he also employs to force his defender into making contact or to reject the screen altogether. Take this play, for example, where he essentially fakes Davion Mitchell out of the play, creating a 2-on-1 advantage heading toward the rim. In previous years, defenders would often counter this by going under the screen to protect the paint. However, now Cade is punishing those coverages with his pull-up three-point shooting. This was another of the key swing skills in Cade's development. Unlike his finishing, this aspect has progressed perhaps even better than anyone could have anticipated. As a rookie, he made just 30% of his off-the-dribble threes. That number improved to 32.5% in 2024, and this year, he's up to 37.5%, which is enough to really pressure defenses from the outside. What stands out even more, though, is the volume. As a rookie, Cade wasn't shooting nearly as many off-the-dribble threes, but now he's much more willing and able to take those shots with confidence. As a rookie, Cade attempted just 2 off-the-dribble threes per game, a number that stayed the same in 2024. This season, however, he's more than doubled his volume, now taking 4 pull-up threes per game. This is not only a weapon he can use when defenders go under the screen, but it also allows him to exploit drop coverage from big men. The threat of this shot opens up the rest of his game. When he uses a hesitation move, defenders react, which creates more space for him to drive and showcase his elite playmaking. In general, I think Cade is one of the best guards in the game at punishing drop coverage. Not only does he have the pull-up 3, but he's also excellent at getting to automatic mid-range jumpers. What really stands out to me is his patience. In this particular play, his defender gets caught on the screen, leaving Kristaps Porzingis in a 2-on-1 situation. Cade takes one dribble and exaggerates the hesitation, making the most of the opening and showing off his ability to make plays in such situations. Cade forces Kristaps into a situation where he either has to commit to the ball or the roll. When Kristaps drops back, Cade confidently takes the jumper. His patience is especially noticeable whenever he utilizes the in-between game. You'll often see him pause off screens to get a defender stuck in jail, either on his back or his hip. He then uses his live dribble to hunt for open space. Due to his size and strength, Cade can easily trap his defender in these situations, and in these spots he's not only a threat to pull up for a mid-range shot, but also to step into openings around the basket. This puts big men in a seemingly impossible position. They don't want to let him maneuver freely around the paint and get to where he wants to go, but as soon as they step up to contain him, Cade is quick to lob the ball to the roller. As a result, many defenses opt for a more aggressive coverage, making sure Cade can't turn the corner and create those easy opportunities. When Cade gets inside the arc, he starts to slice up the defense with some truly high-level passing. Thanks to his size, he can almost always see over the top of defenders, so if he gets hedged or trapped, he doesn't have much trouble finding the short roll for a high-quality scoring opportunity near the basket. However, what stands out is his patience and his ability to use his live dribble. Even when drawing 2 defenders, Cade doesn't rush to get rid of the ball. Instead, he calmly hunts for small gaps to attack, putting consistent pressure on the defense. More often than not, though, he's looking to find the open man. With the way he sees the court, Cade is able to make those pinpoint passes, keeping the defense guessing and constantly reacting to his moves. Cade has an exceptional ability to anticipate openings and read the helper. There truly isn't a pass he can't make. Take this play, for example. When he turns the corner on a drive, the defender jumps out to hedge. In the split second that Cade sees some daylight, he notices that Bradley Beal is cheating over, so he whips a perfect skip pass to the corner, leading to a Tim Hardaway Jr. three-pointer. Cade also incorporates manipulation into these passes. For example, when the defender hedges, notice how Cade is staring at Isaiah Stewart the entire time. He does this to bait the defender into cheating over just a little bit more, which creates a longer closeout for the defense. This opens up space for Jaden Ivey, who's left with plenty of time and space to take the shot. Cade is able to torch drop coverage through his pull-up shooting and in-between game. He also absolutely dices up hedges or traps as a playmaker. This forces some teams to switch, but even that doesn't work very well. One of the things that makes Cade so dangerous is his ability to break down defenses in so many ways. Cade's ability to anticipate openings and read the helper on the floor is exceptional. There truly isn't a pass he can't make. Take this play, for instance. When he turns the corner on a drive, the defender jumps out to hedge. In the split second that Cade sees daylight, he notices that Bradley Beal is cheating over, so he delivers a beautiful skip pass to the corner, leading to a Tim Hardaway Jr. triple. Cade also mixes in some manipulation in these situations. For example, when the defender hedges, notice how Cade is staring at Isaiah Stewart the entire time. This allows him to bait the defender into cheating over just a little more, creating a longer closeout, which gives Jaden Ivey plenty of space to shoot. Cade torches drop coverage with his pull-up shooting and in-between game. He also dices up hedges or traps as a playmaker. This leaves some teams with the option to switch, but even that doesn't work very well. One of Cade's greatest strengths is his ability to break down defenses in so many different ways. Cade is doing all of this while nearly leading the league in volume, with 19.6 possessions per game, ranking 3rd behind only Damian Lillard and Trae Young. This clearly makes him a pick-and-roll maestro, with those plays accounting for more than half of his overall offense. I've already touched on his isolation game, primarily from the perimeter, but another interesting wrinkle in Cade's game is how effective he is in the post, especially when matched up with guards. His size gives him a significant advantage when he turns his back to the basket, and he's capable of scoring in nearly every way imaginable. He has the turnaround jumper over either shoulder, which he often sets up by throwing some nice fakes to create separation. However, his go-to move isn't necessarily the turnaround. It's something else that further showcases his versatility in the post. What Cade does in the post isn't typically seen from a guard, it's more of a big man's move. One of his signature moves is the jump hook with his right hand. The Pistons like to set him up on the left side of the floor with an empty corner, giving him the entire middle of the court to work with. From there, he uses that space to get into his hook shot, and it's incredibly tough to stop. Thanks to his size, he can get to it nearly whenever he wants. When he draws a double team or extra help, Cade quickly shifts into playmaking mode, picking apart the defense as a passer. His patience is key here, as he doesn't immediately look to pass just because he draws attention. Instead, he waits to see if the defense commits before returning to a scoring move. As mentioned, most of his post-ups begin on the left side, where he's in perfect position to execute that hook across the lane. An interesting development to watch is that Cade is already starting to experiment with the jump hook using his left hand. If he can turn that into a consistent offensive weapon, he becomes even more dangerous in the post, particularly from the right side, adding yet another layer to an already vast offensive arsenal. There are only 32 players in the NBA this season who have posted up 50 times. Of those 32, 27 are either power forwards or centers. The 5 players who aren't big men are Jaylen Brown, Cade Cunningham, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, DeMar DeRozan, and Dillon Brooks. Among this group, Cade has the 3rd highest post-up volume and the 2nd highest efficiency, generating 1 point per possession. When we compare Cade to the bigs, his post-up efficiency becomes even more impressive. Of the entire group of 32 players, Cade ranks 4th in efficiency, making him one of the most effective post-up players in the league. Cade ranks ahead of players like Vucevic, Cat, Wembanyama, and Giannis in post-up efficiency this season. Now, it's important to note that we're talking about post-ups on a much smaller scale and as a smaller portion of the team's offense. However, it's crucial to highlight that Cade isn't just a capable post-up player, he's legitimately great at it. So Cade, when you look at the total picture, the statistical indicators of an offensive cornerstone are overwhelmingly in Cade's favor. He's elite in both pick-and-roll situations in the post-up game. The next step for him, however, is becoming a more efficient perimeter isolation scorer, which could depend on improving his interior finishing. That said, given how effective he is in these on-ball play types as both a scorer and passer, Cade is already stuffing the stat sheet. He's now averaging 24 points and 9.5 assists per game on the season. The only other players averaging 20 points and 8 assists are Trae Young, Nikola Jokic, and LeBron James. There is one hang-up with Cade at the moment, though, and that's his efficiency. Not only is his true shooting percentage a few points below average at 55.4%, but he's also 2nd in the NBA with nearly 4.5 turnovers per game, which for many is a significant concern. However, before making this video, I watched every single turnover, and I came away not feeling too bad about it. For the most part, Cade doesn't make errors as a passer. Occasionally, he makes a risky pass that either doesn't get through or gets disrupted by the defense. But overall, he knows which buttons to push and is incredibly accurate. I actually think many of his turnovers stem from his handle, and while that could be a concern for someone who lacks explosion, it's not necessarily a huge red flag. These aren't the type of live dribble turnovers that are impossible to fix. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting lazy while crossing half court or turning the corner. With improved attention to detail, those issues can easily be cleaned up. He also occasionally gets stripped when trying to force himself through impossibly tight spaces, like splitting a double team or getting by nail help. This is something I wouldn't expect to see as much with better spacing. But long term, I'm really not worried about him being a high turnover player, and I'd attribute his current turnover rate more to the fact that he has the ball so often. The Pistons run a very heliocentric offense, especially without Jaden Ivey. They don't have many secondary creators who can handle the ball and make decisions, so almost every possession starts with Cade. He's currently 4th in the NBA in touches and 3rd in time of possession per game, so we're looking at one of the league's most ball-dominant players. As a result, we don't get to see much of Cade playing away from the ball, but I'd argue we've seen enough to get a pretty decent sense of his potential in that area. He doesn't strike me as the type of player who will be constantly moving off the ball, aside from the occasional relocation. He seems to be pretty stationary, but there's value in that. He's developed into a very capable spot-up shooter over the past 2 seasons. He's attempted nearly 300 catch-and-shoot threes and has made over 37% of them. While he's not a top-tier sniper, he's reliable enough to demand respect from the defense. That's especially clear when he's wide open, having made 40.5% of his looks in the past 2 years. This means he's a legitimate threat in terms of spacing the floor. Not only is he a threat to shoot from these spots, but he also has a really effective off-the-catch game, both as an attacker and as a passer. This allows him to keep the offense flowing. For example, in a play like this, when Harris can't get the ball to Duren in the low post, he moves it to Cade, who is one pass away, allowing him to make the delivery. Also, while I mentioned that he doesn't seem to be a super active mover, the Pistons have been experimenting with him as a movement shooter, running him off screens to curl into threes. If he can develop this aspect of his game into a legitimate weapon, it would add even more versatility to his offensive toolkit. We're looking at a seriously dynamic offensive weapon, and to be honest, that's already what he is at 23 years old. He's already one of the best pick-and-roll ball handlers in the league, has a legit post-up game, and is an elite passer and shot maker who can also play without the ball. To me, it's all about 2 key areas. Can he reach another level as an interior finisher? And can he clean up his turnover issues? If so, we're talking about one of the best offensive engines in the game. And if that wasn't enough to sell you on Cade stock, what if I told you he's also been a pretty good defender this season? But that's a story for another day. I just wanted to highlight the impressive offensive potential he already possesses. The type of player Cade already is, and could become, on offense, has gotten to a point where he's not only getting all-star buzz, but also legitimate All-NBA recognition. To me, there's a very real pathway where 4 years from now, we're talking about Cade as an MVP candidate. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to stay updated with more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, be sure to check out the Hoop Venue podcast and my social media profiles. Links are in the description. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on Cade in the comments. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.